to the line. Reynolds. You can take me now. I have seen it all. I have seen everything.
Welcome to the ultimate Supercoach and Fantasy Sports Show. You are now listening to the Insight Fantasy Sports Podcast.
Yes, g'day guys. Welcome back. We are live again for the Sunday Sesh for round 13 of NRL Supercoach on the Insight Fantasy Sports Podcast, where we wrap up all things for the week. The show is brought to you by the Standard Squeeze, bringing you products to help you drink responsibly and conveniently. I'm your host, the Supercoach Brain, and I'm joined by my co-host, the biggest Marju fan I've heard, Supercoach Mattrix. Matty, how you going, mate?
Oh, mate, today my missus decided we were going to do a 6.5K hike. Doesn't sound too bad. Sounds like a nice time, except when you have to carry your 13-kilo toddler. Ugh.
Yeah, you told me about that, I think, last night, and or might have even been really early this morning when you got up. Not my idea.
It was a
of
surprise
Sunday.
for me too. It was a surprise for me too.
Yeah,
went for a run yesterday. I was on struggle street.
Mate, my little guy's been, it's his third week at daycare now. So he's decided to bring home, I reckon, just as many bugs into the house. And me and the missus have been floored over the last couple of weeks. I'm now carrying like the second bug in 2 weeks. So hopefully my voice holds out for this one.
12 months. Enjoy the next 12 months.
Mate, 12 months, I reckon 3 years from what I've heard. It just fucking keeps going around. But that's all right. We'll push on. We'll do what we do. On today's show, guys, we will talk all booms, all busts for round 13. Drop your questions ahead for the week. If you have any questions, let us know, or just let us know how you went this week. It's always a good gauge to see how everybody went. Some pretty big scores out there from what I've seen. Raymond looked like Raymond Crane in the chat, 11:05. Big score, Captain Marju. Love the balls. 11:25 for Professor Cactus as well. Really good scores. Thanks for joining us, guys. Evening, Mark. How are you, mate? Matty will also talk maybe early trade thoughts. We've kind of been speaking a lot this weekend about next weekend already, considering it still is a pretty big week, right? Round 14 probably is as important, maybe even more important than round 13.
Yeah, I think so.
Because, obviously this week we get 13 best scorers, right? So no one needed to really panic or rip their side apart or anything, but there is a consequence to going hard in round 13, and that is that you probably will end up a little bit short or stuck when you've got to fill 17 players in round 14. We'll talk about the teams out and the thinking over the next few weeks very soon as well. But guys, before we jump into the content, hey Fady, how are you, mate? Subscribe, like, please follow, go the extra mile if you want. If you really like the content, please leave us a review on the audio platforms and tell a mate about the podcast, someone that might get something out of it if they're a bit of a super coach nut like you and I. We ask you this every week, and I kind of wanted to explain it. I don't just want to kind of roll out the same kind of stuff every single week and ask you to subscribe, ask you to follow, but there is a reason for it. Just so for anybody who doesn't kind of work with YouTube or do much with YouTube, we put a lot of time and effort into the podcast, and whilst we do love doing what we do, when you reach 1,000 subscribers, that's when monetization kicks in. That's when you start to get, I guess, or reap the reward of the hard work that you put in. So if you haven't subscribed yet and you're yet to, and you like the content or you tune in each week, we would really appreciate it if you did, to help us get a little bit closer to being able to kind of get the reward from the podcast. So
yeah, 100.
Matty, speaking of 100, how'd you go this weekend? Bit of a weird one.
Mate, I was on an absolute tear. I think I was on 870 heading into today, just with Shu and Garrick to go, and just really thought that I would be, up there, top 5%, all the whiz bangs. I expected a big game from Garrick, expected a big game from Schuster, especially after that early one. But the guy I faded was Marju to get Asako this week. It was a big decision. Essentially, that allowed me to get Jermaine Hopgood instead of somebody a bit weaker. And, ended up just sub 1,000. I think it'll be really good because I think all us people that have planned round 13 and we're chatting about it are all in and around that 1,000. But now that we're here, we all hear everybody talking about the thousands, but we're not hearing about the 700s. And you can guarantee when I look at my head-to-head leagues, there's a lot of them. So,
yeah, good shout. I got 1024 saved by Marju. I looped Dylan Brown at the start of the week, and I'm going to go on a bit of a rant right now because it just really gives me the shits how long it takes him to update scores. Like every other weekend, man, correct me if I'm wrong here, but every other weekend, the Friday night game's done by like early Sunday. Like at the latest, it's done Sunday morning, right? And then they lag a little bit on the Saturday games or whatever. Like Thursday night is usually done by Saturday morning, and Friday is usually done by Sunday morning at the latest. And how convenient that a lot of VC loops are in play this week and they end up doing the updates just as or after, like an hour after the final game starts. Like it just gives me the shits. It actually borderline feels like they're doing it on purpose. I don't know whether they are or not, but it just makes it really hard and really inconsistent to be able to rely on knowing when scores are going to be final. I don't know whether that's just me having a rant and getting the shit about something that's not really a big deal, but
no, I just want to make funny.
I was hoping Dylan Brown would get 80 plus. So I was kind of relying on maybe Dylan Brown to get his update before the game. But anyway, he did anyway. So I was lucky he got 84. So the loop ended up working out for me.
And I think, and we talked about it off air, as somebody that watched Dylan Brown's game and knew how fantastic he played, it did sort of feel like it was a little low and that he could get some extra bump ups as I was watching the app, as I watched him do a few things. Like, yeah, you did sort of get that feeling that Dillbags was going to go on the up. So
yeah, he had a pretty quiet game in the second half too, really. So like he started red hot, a couple of try assists, and then went a little bit quiet. So, but 84, you'd be very happy with your captain any week if they got you an 84. So you can't complain about that one. You said you looped a Sarko, right? So, and again, if you had a Jermaine Asako, you'd be pretty happy with looping that.
Yeah, looped Asako, and I would have looped him at 100. But again, just leaving that bad aftertaste after just absolutely firing through the start of the weekend, it costed me 20 points, which actually cost me to get into 1,000. I'm sure updates will help me out. Garrick looked dangerous when he got the ball. Just without Turbo, he doesn't get it as much. And Schuster does, I don't know, some weird things out there on the field. So.
Yeah. I think they both just scraped past 50. So, I mean, it was a bit of a midweek. I mean, when I look at my scores, I think the majority of my players got between like 50 and 75. And like my lowest score was Matt Dory that counted in my 13 and he got 44. And then everybody else was like 50, 51, then a couple of 60s, a couple of 70s, Dylan Brown with the 84. And did I get 100? Oh, yeah, and Marju's 137 was my only 100 for the week. So, I mean, I'm happy with the week, but it's just a bit of a weird one. Like usually you see a lot of extremes throughout the week. You see a high 100 and you see a 20 or a 10. We just didn't have that this week.
Yeah. Hey, while we're recapping last week, get a load of these 4 trades that I made. So I've gone Jermaine Asako, 100. I've gone Jermaine Hopgood, doubled Jermaine this week, 74. I've went Tohu Harris, 63, and Cody Walker with a 68. Some pretty big ins as somebody that had 9 coming in after Hudson Young and Reece Walsh got selected. So.
How good's that? Yeah, and if you don't make those trades, you end up probably 150, 200 points behind, really, don't you? So
yeah, probably a lot further, really.
Yeah, true. I brought Cody Walker in for 68. I got, who else did I bring? I brought Karaz in a week early. So obviously no points there, but I'm kind of playing forward. I did sacrifice Robson to go to Cook, which lost me 4 points and also cost me Chance Nickel-Cookstad. So I kind of feel like I'm maybe 100 points behind there. So I could have actually been 1,100 plus this week if I went with that trade instead of going with Damien Cook. But anyway, it is what it is. That's hindsight. It's always lovely to...
Old Nico hindsight, eh?
Yeah, your favorite lately, isn't it? So just stay tuned for Greg Marju chat because I'm going to bring him up at least 10 times in this podcast for you because I know you're a big fan. So
I fucking hate that guy.
Let's talk injuries very quickly. There's 5 maybe notable injuries to look at. One of them, a really serious one, with Corey Howard and Naira going down in that game. We won't go to detail or anything like that, but, big concerns for him. But the good news is he's been discharged from hospital. Further scans to come, and I think you were mentioning that Corey Horsburgh said something on NRL 360 about him.
Yeah, it was just as I was heading in. Really, they he did a little video that he sent around to the boys, just letting them know that he was doing okay. So
Yeah,
I
that's good.
suppose that once you get into the week, we'll find out a little bit more. But not super coach relevant at the moment, so wouldn't want
No,
to
just
gloss
I
them over
mean,
that. So,
really concerning when you see
Mm.
it like that, and you see a guy down for over 20
We,
minutes on the field, like just not makes you feel
we
sick.
we were just sitting there in the lounge room struggling. It was not
Yeah.
enjoying the watch. So
No, it wasn't good. It wasn't good, especially after the Damar Hamlin thing in the NFL last year and all that kind of stuff. Like you
yep,
start to think that's the possibility of what could happen in moments like that. But really
yep,
glad that he's healthy. So Sebastian Chris went down with a knee in the same game, and Jordan Rapiner with a head knock as well. Chris tried to play out the rest of the game, but came off. I don't know how
yep.
super coach relevant that one is. Maybe someone went with him as a pod at fullback, but I can't imagine he's well owned.
I don't know that, and I suppose we're going to cover it later. But that's what makes this Croker thing a bit more of a headache, because they probably the Croker thing, which we'll cover a bit later, is Croker sitting to play 300th at home. Like, I know we've got X to come back in, but yeah, I'm presuming if Rapana and Seb Chris are out next week, Croker has to suit up, right?
Yeah, I think so. It'd look really stupid by Ricky and by the Raiders, just everyone in the Raiders organization, by making that decision. It's not just Ricky Stewart's decision. There'll be a lot of other people involved in that. That wouldn't make no sense if these two guys are ruled out and they still don't play him. So very interesting. I hope the Tigers absolutely put him to the sword at Campbelltown then on Friday night.
Can I tell you, I'd be pretty excited to see Savage back at fullback. I've liked what I saw, got on him at times last year. Obviously, he was a 200k cheapie coming in then, but yeah, would love to see more of him at fullback. And I think Seb Chris is probably better in the wing or the centers. Once Croker retires and everything, I think Savage is the fullback of the future.
Yep.
So,
yeah, I agree with that. I think Seb Chris initially was a bit of a stopgap, wasn't he?
yeah, and like he's played well while he's there,
and he's a good centre.
Mm.
So there's no point forcing that. Freddie Lussick failed his HIA, so there's a good chance. So he will miss next week. Correct me if I'm wrong. So that'll be 11-day stand down if he failed his HIA. So Freddie Lussick out next week, and man, their hooker stocks at the Warriors are through the floor.
Forgive me if was Wade Egan HIA again?
No, it was actual soft tissue injury, I think, from memory.
Yeah. Okay. So he's proper out.
Yeah. So proper out this week. And Joe Offahengawi going down with a calf injury about 10 minutes in on his Parramatta Eels debut, which was great for Hopgood owners and great for anybody who took a punt on Wiramu Greg.
Yeah. Yes. Or people that have been holding Wiramu Greg since they got him for 200k, thinking that they were just getting onto a plotter. But anyway, yeah, if you follow our TikToks, you had some big takes about Offengawi. They don't always work out, do they? I think I've got a Cam Murray take that's still sitting in the inbox that I never uploaded. So yeah,
at least probably after he got the best 39 you've ever seen. So,
the best.
Yeah. But hey, you don't get them all right. At least it was an injury. He didn't play the 80 and just end up being a shitter. So.
100. It's just always the timing when you come out with something like that, and you're definitely on one.
Always, mate. Do you want to take us into the first game?
Yeah. So the Dolphins 26 defeated the Dragons 12. Our booms this week was Jacob Little with 110. Of course, Asako with 100 after updates. JMK with 89 after updates because he updated about 20 points. Milford, who's not super coach relevant, 81. Nichols scored a meat pie with 68, and Lemu Elu with 57 in base, scoring a 62. Anyone you want to chat about there, Brano?
I think, two guys maybe. Asako's the obvious one, the 100. A lot of people VC'd him. At the end, once we've gone through all the games, we'll quickly talk through the captaincy options because I think what you'll notice is probably there's two players that stand out and the rest you're sitting between 60 and 75, 80. And Asako was probably the easiest loop option of the weekend, really, wasn't he? Anybody who owned him had the VC on him and took the 109, I think it was, before updates. And then he obviously lost those 9 points, but you're taking plus 100 on a week like this where you get a free loop every single week.
Yeah, absolutely. And then like Little, he's impressed me. if you need a downgrade, I think you could do worse. Like if you're going Sonny Luke or something like that and looking for, and sorry, you need to use a stepping stone. I suppose everybody wants to jump up to one of those 550, 600K guys from Sonny Luke. But if you can't get there, there's worse options than Jacob Little.
Yeah, Little's 315,000 this week, 43 break even. So with the 110, he'll likely go up about 60, 70K.
Yeah, should have a negative break even next week too, though.
Yeah, so he'll be about 370,000, give or take, next week. And the problem is Sonny Luke has just plummeted so much. He's sitting at like 240K or something ridiculous. So like you've got to spend up 130K to go to Little. And I don't know whether people are going to want to take that stepping stone option at hooker anymore with trade starting to run out. So I don't know whether it's the right time.
Yeah, if you had the luxury there to do it, but if you're rage trading Sonny Luke, you're not getting anything for his price. Yeah. You're not getting absolutely anything for his price. Yeah, you have to take the stepping stone approach or find yourself 350K rather than 150. So,
and Jeremy Marshall-King with an 89 did exactly what we expect of him, really, didn't he? A lot of people were looking at the cheaper options like Cook and Robson this week because JMK is about 100K more expensive. So anybody who went with JMK maybe a month ago, I think was probably the right time to get him when he was bottoming out. You'd be stoked with that option rather than going with the popular.
Yep. And you know what? if I had Harry Grant and was looking to downgrade, probably would have went Jeremy Marshall-King. But as a guy that has Robson, and we'll talk about it later, he got 77. Pretty happy with 100K, 10 points. You know what? It is what it is.
Yep. I'm not looking at Milford or Nichols, but Lemuelu 62. I think the big concern with me when I was initially looking at him when he was like 400K was the fact that he had minimal base. He didn't really kind of punch out those base numbers that you would want from a guy as a potential keeper. But 57 in base is very impressive. So no attacking stats on the weekend, and you got 62. You'd be more than happy to put that in your center wing every single week. So anybody who jumped on him, they'd be very happy.
Yeah, it looks like a really good version of Michael Cheekham.
That's a good comparison, actually. You've been thinking about that one for a while, just straight off the top of the head.
That was off the cuff.
Yeah, nice. Well played. Very good. Let's talk busts then in this one. Valence Tavare with a 4.
You know what? I don't even consider it a bust. That is what was always going to happen when you saw him.
I don't know. I think people were convinced that he was going to come off the bench and play either in the middle for 20, 30 minutes or maybe even come into the lineup at the last minute if Branko Lee wasn't good to go or whatever. Because we know that Branko Lee and Ewan Aitken are both managing niggles. So maybe that's what the hope was. But 4. And that kind of stunts his cash growth as well, which is really annoying. So I'm really glad I didn't jump early. But the bonus is if you had more than 13 this week, VTW drops out of your score anyway. I'd say that he would have been your lowest score this week, so it doesn't really affect you.
I don't think there was a lower score this week. So.
Probably not. Tyrell Sloan, 25, continues to be a bit of a spud. Rounds 2 to 8, he averaged 57. And then rounds 9 to 13, he averaged 22. So everybody jumped on round, I think it was 7 or 8. So you maybe got one good score out of him, and then he's just gone to mush. So hopefully people jumped off and didn't hold him. You traded him out though, right?
Score. Yeah, I traded him out. Yeah, I don't own him. I got him. He went up in cash. And then I held him for another week and then he went back down. I think I made 30K, but I just rectified my mistake. Like I said about a lot of my trades this week, it was rectifying mistakes. And Katoa with a 31. Is it a really disappointment when it's what you expect out of him?
I expected him to be my lowest score this weekend and he was.
He was mine too, so. And I only had 13, so.
Yeah, nice. He dropped out of my score. Luckily, I had Matt Dory 44 or 42, I think it was. That was my lowest. So definitely can't complain about that. But Jack DeBellin, another good game, 54, but with a sin bin. So that could have easily been in the 70s, considering you lose 10 points for the sin bin and then you lose 10 minutes of workload. So Jack Bird, 48, didn't play the full game though from memory. Just went off the field. Did you see any?
He went off. I was chatting to you. We were in that meeting, so
A little bit. No, I'm not concerned. I mean, I don't have Jack Bird, but if they're going to start managing his knee, you might see him play less than 80 now. So that's much less enticing for me if he's not
that's
playing
pretty
80
much
minutes.
what you want. Like you've got him there because he's 80-minute second row lock, whatever he is at the moment, and that you can play him in your center wing. And if he's not doing all of those things, it's probably time to, punt him.
Speaking of punting, if you held Toby Couchman, he got 50 odd. So I feel like, I don't know about you, but every single time I looked at one of these plotters that I'm like, no way am I touching that guy. They got like 40 or 50 this week.
Yeah.
It's kind of like
Ben Murdoch
everybody's. Yeah, Ben Murdoch Masilla got 42. Like, when does he ever get 42, man? But he does it on the week where everybody needs to play him. So I feel like a lot of people got bailed out by these kind of sub 300k cheapies getting big scores. Pasami Solo was another one for the Raiders. I think he got 60 odd. Like, I mean, I have none of these plotters aside from Dory, so that's why I'm a little bit annoyed. But if you had one, you'd be very happy about it.
Yeah, and sort of dodged a bullet for those people that were trying to outthink the room with Lomax there. 46, covered his break even of 46. He still pays 530k for 46. I'm looking for more than that from someone I'm spending 500k for. So,
yeah, spot on.
Heading to the next one. Eels 24 defeated the Cowboys 16. Cowboys at least showed a little bit of fight in this one, especially after their record-breaking thumping from last week.
Yeah, the Eels are just no Tigers, really, are they? Like, I mean, only 24 they put on them. So Tigers put 66 on the Cowboys. So does that make us a 40-point better team than the Eels?
Yeah, by that logic, whatever the Eels are, they're 5 places above. So
yeah, right. Good.
12 points per place. Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Boom's here. Scotty Drinkwater 117, and he was in the conversation last week, wasn't he? A lot of people, and we were having a chat in the Discord, which we'll talk about soon. And that Drinkwater was getting his name thrown around a fair bit as a potential option to bring in at fullback. Is it too late?
So what was he? He's about 649k. Just got 117 in his rolling average. He had a break even of 30. He'll go up to around that 700k. I think he's too much. The only reason I would look at him is if you have Reece Walsh and he is managed for whatever reason next week.
Yep.
Or he hurts himself. That's the only trade that I can see being worth it. Unless you're properly clutching at straws and you had Gutho for the first buy, but you got Gutho because he's playing all 3 buys. Yeah, I can't see a trade that's worth it.
No, and for any Cowboys players now, like even Robson, if you're looking at him at hooker, or Drinky, I don't know whether you jump now because they've got the buy in round 15. So if you're going to pick him up, you pick him up 16. But the issue is his last 3 games, 75, 95, 117. So the cash will start going up. That rolling average is looking pretty healthy. So he'll be out of the league.
You're paying an absolute premium for a player in the worst team in the comp.
Ooh, worst team. Tigers are off the worst team in the comp. We've been referencing the Tigers as the worst team in the comp for about 6 months.
Actually, no. The Dragons are the worst team in the comp. Sorry to all you Cowboys supporters. Dragons still
blasphemy. Yeah, they do. They do. Yeah, but Drinky was huge. Kyle Felt 97. Mitchie Moses 95 was also a very popular VC option in this game, along with Dylan Brown, the two most popular. He got 95. Helam Lukey with an 87 after getting 18 the week before. So I guess when you look at it, he kind of scored you 105 across 2 weeks. So
pretty good, really. Nice. You'd be happy if you held. Like if you went early and maybe didn't get the Luciano news and still decided to go there, or you had that in your rolling average, you'd be absolutely charging with this because, hey, he did his job. He's still a very talented footballer. You just wonder if the opportunity's there. You definitely wonder if the opportunity's there once the Cowboys, who have 4 urgent players, once they come back into the squad.
This is actually a really big scoring game, this one. I mean, you got Drinky, Felt, Moses all went above 95. Helam, Lukey, Dylan Brown, Gutho in the 80s. Then you got our boy.
If the Tigers were playing, there would have been 600s though.
That would have been. That would have been. Hey, our boy Wirral McGregor, who had basically just said don't go near him all season, bashes out a 77. He actually passed the. He looked really good. I
He
mean,
did.
it was forced. He played way more minutes than he normally would have, which is the reason why I've been a little bit apprehensive about Wirral McGregor to start with, because I just didn't see the minutes there. But every single player in the middle forward rotation just goes down with injury at the Eels. So he's the only guy in Hopgood that can stay on the park. So if you went with him, you just take that cash and you could probably upgrade him to a keeper when the buy period's done.
Yeah, like if you have him, but like you've got to remember, like if you're looking forward and you didn't watch this game, a few of the forwards, Joe O, some blokes like that went down. Of course, there's Paulo. There's blokes in the Origin squad that they're missing as well. Yeah, he's not going to get this opportunity every week, and he's definitely not a season-long keeper or anybody that you're getting at that price that you can hold through. It's just if you did have him and you needed a number for this round, you are absolutely cheering.
Mark makes a good point here. When they start giving Supercoach points for waving your arms around every play, Moses and Gutherson would be the new Corey Parker. I like that. I like that take. They do carry on a little bit. But, I mean, look, hey, would you – and I saw some Parramatta Eels supporters arguing about this over the weekend on Twitter saying, would you rather Gutho and Moses give a shit and carry on too much, right? Or would you rather Tim Manor, who basically did nothing for the Eels as captain over 6-7 years and was a bit of a walkover? I'd rather someone give a shit for me. So whilst I don't like either of them as players, I would rather a captain or a player in my team that gave a shit and actually challenged the referees on decisions. So,
well, I've actually found that with Renault at the Broncos, and you don't care as much when it's your team, can I tell you? But Renault is in the ear of the ref all game long, and you know what? We seem to get results because of it, and Parramatta made the grand final last year. They've been a pretty good side since Gutho and Moses have been there. So, hey.
Yep. Other notable scores, Robson 76, Hopgood 74, Sean Russell 73. Some good 60s in there as well. We won't go through all of them, though. There's not really any Supercoach relevant ones from there. But Joe O with 10, Hodgson 17. Mate, I reckon there's a big warning sign, big red flag sitting on Hodgson's head at the moment because Brendan Hands looked good again. And
he looked fantastic.
How long do you continue to carry Josh Hodgson on the bench when you can just let Hands play 80? Looks like he's capable of doing it. And
like,
use another forward.
They don't owe Hodgson anything, really. He's a new recruit this year who I suppose is a little bit of a fallen gun. And just give the keys to the city to Brendan Hands, unless his match fitness isn't there or something like that. But I know when he plays 60 minutes, the spark seems to be there for me on the eye test. So,
yeah, absolutely. He does look good. I like him. And I'm sure that the Parramatta Eels would love that to happen too. Mate, next one. Your
moving forward. Yeah, my Broncos 26 beat the Warriors 22 down across in Napier, New Zealand. You know, you're talking to some of the boys. It's nearly a day of travel to get there. It couldn't be further away from Auckland or further away from Wellington, not knowing where you need to land over there. And there was a few streakers. It was a bit of a wild. Like, you had to look at the crowd there. There was about 3 Broncos fans there, and it absolutely looked wild. Everybody was going off, and then the way that the game finished as well, you can't blame them.
Let's talk about the way the game finished, because
do you want to start at the beginning where the Broncos went well, or
no,
we'll end there.
No, we're gonna start with this because Adam Pompey should be dropped for what he did this week. Like, I reckon single-handedly probably cost them the game, and there's no guarantee that he would have scored in the corner. Yeah, single-handedly cost them the game. Pun was intended. I was hoping someone would catch on. Good from you.
I got it. Got it. The old Brendan Hands.
Yeah, that's it. But like, there was no need for him to grab him at all. Probably would have scored in the corner. So very, very disappointing. If you're a Warriors fan, especially at home, I thought they'd play much better. I actually tipped the Warriors to win well in this one, considering how many players the Broncos were missing. You're missing all your rep players. Like, Adam Reynolds, though, just put his hand up and put everyone on his back, though. He had an awesome game, didn't he? What did he score, 84?
Yeah, and we've missed him those last couple of weeks. And now with him back, like, it doesn't matter who's around him. Adam Reynolds makes everybody around him better.
Yep, agreed. Now, the two hyphenated Dallin, Wateni-Zelezniak and Charles Nickel-Klukstad led the way in the scoring. DWZ with 128 and CNK with 94. Every time I see CNK's name with a 94 next to it, it makes me a little bit sad knowing that I had him in my team as a trade this week and then bailed on it. But hey, it's not too late, I don't think. If you don't have CNK in your team, I mean, we've had this chat a lot on this pod and also privately in chats. You see CNK as a genuine season-long keeper, right?
Yep. Yeah. The second I got him, I was just impressed. And also, like, he did bang out a couple scores of a 39 and a few scores there in the middle where everybody jumped off. Like, you've got this guy that when you watch him is trying his heart out, scores really well, has a really good Supercoach game. The Warriors have been really good. He scored 94 against a depleted Broncos, yes, but in a team that lost, where he spent 10 getting a HIA anyway, he looked phenomenal. Like,
yeah, even I was saying to you mid-game on the weekend, like, I'm just like, CNK looks fucking awesome. Like, he's in everything. That's the try that he scored, like, just backing up through the middle and just took the hard run straight up the middle. He's doing all the right things. And, you know, we were a little bit off him at the start of the season. We're like, oh, I'm not quite sure how he's going to go with the Warriors. And obviously they've turned up this year. Their middle forwards have been amazing. And he's just rolled off the back of that momentum that they've had. And obviously SJ has been incredible as well, but not quite so this game.
No, and those guys that got him in for the Nico or the Cleary fade over this period, yeah, would have hurt a lot. Finished on 39. Honestly, that try assist was late too. Like, he was looking like he was going to finish on 22. Yeah, look, the alarm bells were always there with SJ. It's not somebody I wanted to go near, but I have so many Warriors as it is anyway. Like, I've got Tohu Harris in this week. I'm still holding Jackson Ford. Yeah, was really high on Niokore. But yeah, SJ just didn't do it. And it's not like Metcalf come in and stole the show. It was just all the backs.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, don't get me wrong. The Broncos played really well. I think for what they were given and for the amount of troops they had out, a lot of players stepped up. Was Palacia had a pretty good game, didn't he, from memory?
Yeah, and he scored a 42, and a few people had got him and was holding them through. And I suppose it's periods like this is why we get blokes like, you know, Marty Tapau in the off season, and because we know that we are one of those teams that always seem to have, you know, 4 or 5 guys at Origin, even when we were last. And not going very well, we seem to have those guys going away to Origin year on, year out. So, yeah, we're poised. Tristan Saylor looked good too. Shame he's fullback and 5'8". So,
yeah, that's the only downside with him is that you can't really use him as enough because it's not really a position you want enough because it's such a high upside position. So, probably not an option. But I guess my question to you now, with the Broncos not playing the round 16 or 19 major buys, that's going to be a big consideration, I guess, into how people make their trades in the coming weeks. Do you have any players from the Broncos at the moment that you would still consider, even though they don't play those major buys?
No. I think if you've held through this round with an Origin player from the Broncos, and just remember, 5 of our 13 are in Origin. So I've held Reece Walsh through last week, not Reece Welsh. That's Christian Welch. Held him too, but held Reece Walsh. And you know what? He was going to be missing 16 and 19 anyway. Depends what happens with Ponga and a few things like that, and how his debut goes. But yeah, you would definitely hold, say, Haas, for example, if you held him through. But I wouldn't be looking at Broncos over this period. I'd be looking at about round 20 to get anyone in now. Do you feel the same?
No. There's one guy that I'm looking at. He's 400k, 7% owned. Now, his numbers don't scream at you by me at all, by any means. And I think it's a bit of a sideways kind of luxury trade. And I guess a lot of people are going to be looking at trading out Jared Croker next week, potentially. And I'll explain that soon. But am I crazy to be looking at Katoni Staggs, knowing that he just dropped under 400k this week? Like, under 400k Katoni Staggs. I mean, he's only averaged 40 over the last 5 games. He's got a season average of 45, but 8 of his 13 games have gone above 40. I'm not looking at playing him that much, but he could be a really good center wing downgrade to free up cash if you wanted to find cash somewhere and you were happy with your squad. Because I mean, there's no AE issue. He's not going to get dropped. He's going to hold his side. He's going to hold his spot on the side. He's not really going to get you a 10 or a 15 or anything like that. He'll get you I think his lowest score is 29.
Yeah.
So, like, he'll get you a 30 at worst case. That's not really a bad AE. I don't know. Am I crazy in looking at him?
Yeah. I don't think so, but I think as long as it's not somebody that you plan on adding every week. I copped a bit of slack at the start of the year for saying, Tony Staggs is a bit of a fraud, at least Supercoach wise. Like where he is as a footballer, like we were talking about next week, for example, he's going to be marking Talakai, and I don't think Talakai will get a very good score next week because Tony Staggs rushes the line, absolutely hammers people. People are scared to run at him. And he's just a good footballer in that way. He's not really a super coach. But if you're adding him instead of enough and you're just going to sit him there and not play him every week or any week, only if it's a desperation play, I don't hate it. I think you'll end up holding a bloke that might be 450K throughout the year. That might be your 6th best centre wing, though.
Yeah.
If you're prepared for that.
I'm just looking at my team at the moment, and I really don't want to trade out too many people. I'm looking in the center wing, and I'm going, okay, like for instance, as an example, the reason I'm looking at this is because I'm set for 16 and 19. I've actually got 16 players for round 16 and 19 at the moment. I'm probably going to have to look a little bit closer at round 17 and 20. I may be a little bit short there, but I don't looking at the numbers, I don't think I'm too far short. I should have about 20 available. But I don't want an AE nightmare that I'm going to bring in, but I want someone that could make me some cash, or someone that could free up some cash. So that's probably the way that I'm thinking with him. I'm never going to play him unless I really, really have to.
Good. That's the tipper. So if you're in the chat and you're asking this question and I was answering, as long as your plan is to not have to play him,
yep.
Is he a better player than a bloke like Hayes Dunster? Yes. Is he a better player than some of these other guys that, Bailey Simonson or some of these other cheapies that we've bought, honestly, for about the same amount of money that Tony Staggs is? Then, yeah, I think he's not going to be an AE nightmare. I think you could play him if you have injuries in your team and you don't have the trades to fix it that week, or you need to save them for a following week. Yeah, I don't hate it.
Even last year, he averaged 50. Remember when he was peak kind of Tony Staggs doing Tony Staggs things, just, scoring tries for fun and all that kind of stuff. Like, I don't feel like that's too far gone. It's not like he's got old and Father Time's caught up. It's just
do you know how
maybe his
Tony
role's
Staggs
a bit different. I don't know, like 24, 25.
23.
Yeah, there you go. So I'm picking up a 23-year-old sub 400K that has been a previous Supercoach weapon. I mean, is there any sort of risk in picking him up? Probably not. Not really. Not when I'm getting him at sub 400K. I actually feel like I'm talking myself into it. I don't mind it. And I'll talk about who I'm going to go to him at the end.
As long as it's not a play just thinking that you're getting a gun for 399K. Because I think we've had 3 years of this Tony Staggs. And yes, he had those runs of where he scored, a couple hundreds in a row or goes on a 4-game stretch. Then, yeah, you might consider playing him on matchup there. But definitely, if he scored 2 tons in a row at the moment, I wouldn't be looking at him. And I watch every single Broncos game.
Yep. Yeah, fair enough. Fair enough. I just think we're a little bit kind of short on cheapies at the moment. So, but yeah, maybe I'm not forcing a trade.
Yeah, and I've got someone in here, and I know that you're going to hate it. Jordan Ricky is 433K, 3% owned, averages about 50, which is more than Tony Staggs at the moment. Seems to have a bit more attacking upside in his game this year. And again, just not an AE burn. Like, I wonder if you're looking to bank some cash there, you could use somebody like that as well.
Could do. What's he got? He got a 77 this week. 58 break even. Sorry, I actually haven't looked at him all year. I mean, the problem is, his last 5 games, 39, 25, 47, 39, 37.
Which is why he's 400K. Yeah,
that's right. And again, exactly the same as Tony Staggs. You know, except has Jordan Ricky ever been the guy that's gone out and got you average 65, 70 for a season or anything like that?
No, never.
So, That's
He's looked
probably,
about the best he has. Like,
yeah.
all I'm thinking is if you're using the same logic, and
Yep.
Tony Staggs is the play in this, but if you need to do the same sort of thing with a second rower, you could do it. I would much prefer get a bloke that you can play him in a pinch, like
Yep.
your Rickies, like Tony Staggs, than like completely nothing somebody.
Yeah.
Because
Yep.
there's so many buys, there's been so many injuries. These HIAs have actually taken a big toll on NRL Supercoach. Remember when we were talking about Wade Egan? Like, he went up 300K, and like obviously this last one wasn't a HIA, but he was HIA'd every second week there for a while. So
Yeah. People are burning through trades at the moment, so I think it would be smart in the next 2-3 weeks if you could hold some. I think you're going to need them a little bit later in the season where players start to go down.
Yep.
But mate, but before we go into the next game, I just wanted to let everybody know about the Discord. So, something that we've been working hard on over the last couple of months is getting a Discord server together for like-minded people, like everybody watching tonight, or anybody who's ever watched our streams to get involved in and just chat Supercoach, and also get a bit of exclusive access to us. So, we don't necessarily put everything on Twitter. We don't make everything public. Like, our final trade moves are usually private. But we put them in the Discord, so anybody in the Discord gets access to our final trades, our final thoughts around decisions we're making around starts and sits and captaincy, vice captaincy. Do we loop? Do we not? A lot of those questions that you can't really just go and tweet out. Otherwise, my Twitter would just be going ape shit, and people would be blocking me because I'm tweeting too much. So, what we've done is we've opened up the Discord server. You'll see the invite to the Discord right at the start of this stream. So to stream all the way up to the top of the live comments, and you'll find it. Join the Discord, get involved. At the end of the day, if you like the content, you'll find that there's plenty of value in the Discord as well. And that's not just access to NRL, that's access to AFL. We've got obviously the AFL boys in there as well. NBA is going to be kicking off very soon. So we've got Matty Garrett looking after the NBA there, and you'll be involved in some NBA, Matty, as well. So, and then for other sports like NFL, FPL, if you play that kind of stuff
BBL,
as well.
yeah,
BBL Supercoach coming later this year. It's all in the Discord, and you can choose which sport you want to access or which sport you want access to. So plenty of good stuff in there. So jump in the Discord and have a chat with us and check it all out.
Yeah, and it's nothing behind a paywall. Maybe in the future, if something turned up, then we'd look into it. But realistically, for those that do not have a Discord, I would probably just say that it's just, I suppose, a little app that has a heap of chats going. You can put your trade advice out there, and you might not even get trade advice from me or Brano. There's just a lot of people that know a lot about Supercoach in there, and we all just weigh in and have a little bit of a discussion. And yeah, like the Thinking Aloud said, the Discord is a vibe. The Tasteful Nudes, they just turn up. Like there is a whole stream for beer selfies. There is a whole stream for beer selfies. Get amongst it. Here we go. Look at this.
There you go. And that would be in the Discord server right now. If anybody's watching, screen grab it. But yeah, no, plenty of good stuff in there. And if you like a punt as well, there's a channel for punting as well. So I'm pretty sure, did your headphones just go flat?
Yep.
Well played. Damo, how are you, mate? Let's move on. So before we do, Discord invite is right at the top of the stream in the comments, right at the start. So all you need to do is go all the way to the top. Raiders and Rabbitohs, mate, take us away.
Mate, good game all around. The Raiders 33 defeated the Rabbitohs 26. Our booms this week, of course, Supercoach-wise, that we'll be chatting about is Tass, Hopewadi, Josh Papali'i, Corey Horsburgh, after shaving his head, looked fantastic. Tarpany, they just unleashed him. He was off the minutes restrictions this week with 82. And then, of course, the Rabbitohs losing. We start going into a few of those guys. And Cook, after, I think, getting a bit lucky with that try there, some of the owners were bailed out. Walker, 68, and AJ, 70. If we were talking about any bust, we'd just cover Timoko, who just really showed his floor this week. Mate, how many of these players did you have? I know I have AJ, Cody Walker.
I had
Tarpany.
Yeah, I had Tarpany, Cook, AJ, Walker. So I brought Cook in this week. So this was a pretty good game for me, really. Like, no one really failed in this game for me, luckily. And like Professor Cactus mentioned, Tarpany did get a nice update there at the end. I think he went from late 60s to an 82. Playing at lock seemed to suit him as well. He didn't take as many runs, but he was ball playing a little bit more, playing as that link man. So it'll be interesting to see whether they continue to do that and play Horsburgh on an edge, because there were definitely more attacking stats for Horsburgh playing on an edge than he got playing in the middle.
Yeah, and like really, Tarpany there, he still runs the same way, and then when he does run, does a bit more ball playing, but he still spins around and tries to get that offload. We might see some more line break assists, but I think he'll still run the same way. I think he'll still get his offloads and definitely more minutes, more time for this beast, this absolute talent on the field is going to be better for owners, and I think he's must own at this stage of the year.
Yeah, I agree with you. Hey, I guess the big news coming out of the Raiders-Rabbitohs game is Jared Croker. Now, a lot of people have used Jared Croker as a number this week. He got 65, I think he finished on, so a really good little prop up for owners there. But Ricky Stewart came out in the presser and basically said he won't be playing next week against the Tigers at Campbelltown because they want him to play his 300th game in Canberra. What are your thoughts on this one?
It just sounds like a publicity stunt. I hate it. If he's really there just to play his 300th, you're actually nullifying what he's doing on the field. Like, he's here because he's a good footballer and he deserves to be there. They're basically saying he doesn't deserve to be here. The only reason he's here is because they want him to play his 300th, and Savage is playing reserve grade for that exact reason. I hate it. Absolutely hate it.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of it at all. I mean, I'm a Campbelltown local. Would have been nice to go to Croker's 300th game this weekend. I'm going to try and get to the game on Friday anyway, regardless. But it doesn't make much sense. A bit of a slap in the face to Croker. And Ricky Stewart came out and said this isn't Croker's decision. Basically said that this isn't his decision. This is ours. So, what if he wants to play? Like something smells off. And maybe, whether they're giving him a week off for that shiner that he got, that black eye that he ended up finishing the game with, maybe they're giving him a bit of a rest. Maybe he's a bit sore. Maybe there's niggles.
Well, it didn't hurt. It didn't hurt him. He played the best game I've seen him play in 5 years.
Yeah, he did play well. He had a good game. But yeah, I guess that affects now people's numbers next week. And if you are skint on numbers and you held a lot of Eels, Knights and Sea Eagles players this week to get your 14, 15 players, you're going to be short an extra player in Croker next week if you're relying on him to play. So that is something we'll discuss when we talk about our trades or our early trade thoughts, because I'm thinking about probably moving him out this week, but we'll see how we go. Keon Kalamatangi, you were pretty big on, a little kind of fortnight play for you that didn't really pan out, but are you still high on him? Do you still think he's an option?
So I hate where the Rabbitohs have their buys this year. It's round 20 and round 26. And if he's not playing Origin, when's the week that you want to get him in? It's round 20. After all the puff runs out, he's got 101 break even. He's got 50. He's going to come down, hopefully come down for another couple weeks. And then when do you want to get him? You want to get him round 20 once you're sure that he's not going to get picked for Origin. Then you've got a buy. Then he plays 4 weeks. Then he's got another bye, which is smack bang during the ride home.
Yeah.
No. I think he's done for me this year. And I owned him, and I wanted to finish the year with Keon Kalamatangi the way that he's played. So,
yeah, Keon could easily be a top 5 2RF to finish the season with. You've mentioned the buys already. It's just that throws me off. I'd rather go with a Hamoli Olakawatu or something for the run home than go with Keon, who are very, very similar players with similar kind of output.
If you dub over what I just said about Keon Kalamatangi and the buys and said the same thing with Latrell, you may as well, because I really want Latrell and I really want to finish the year with Latrell. But these buys, like the extra 2, like spending 900 plus K for a bloke that's going to miss 2 of the last 6, 7. Yeah, not for me. Like, I've got to get guys that are going to put, if I'm spending 900K, I need them to play.
Yeah. I think if you have Latrell now, you just hold him through Origin. They've got a nice run. He should back up. And if you've got him now, just hold him for the season, or cop moving him in round 26. If you're playing head to head, that'll be the grand final week as well, because they always play the grand final a week before the end of the season so that rests don't come into play and stuff. I don't know. I'd still argue I want Latrell for the run home. I'll just move him in round 26 for the final 2 rounds, and I'll go to somebody else that's in form. I'll just make sure I have a couple of trades up my sleeve.
If anything, he is good enough to get for 4 or 5, and Keon might not be.
No, I don't think he is. I don't think he is. Too late for Corey Horsburgh. I mean, we mentioned him. He got 99. We can't call him Big Red anymore. We have to call him Big Skinhead or something.
Big ball.
I saw someone on Twitter say that he just looked like a giant green penis on Twitter. It's lost all his personality with that red hair.
Yeah, look, he had a break even of 73. He's definitely covered it. 630K for a guy playing in the front row. Sorry, Supercoach wise is playing in the front row. Doesn't really interest me. The only person I'm paying up any more money for is Payne Haas, and that'll be round 20. So
yep. Yeah, we spoke about this, and I think Haas Tarpany is the front row combo that I want to finish the year with. And then, I mean, look, 2RF is it's so wide open at the moment, but a guy that I've been looking at, and a question also from Mr. Callio in the chat is, are we looking at Sharks players this week? Absolutely. The Sharks, the Bulldogs, the Tigers, and the Eels all play round 16 and 19. And specifically, I know that there are going to be some buys in there. I'm pretty sure the Sharks have a buy in round 17, as do the Tigers, but you just need to plan accordingly for that. Yeah, it is a good buy round.
That's a pretty good buy round. Yeah.
Britton Nickera is a guy that I probably want for the run home, especially knowing that he's going to be on Nico's side. He's got a good connection with Nico Hines. If he can keep that form up, and you've got those two as a bit of a combo, as a bit of a stack, having a Nickera stack to finish the year, that could end up quite positive for you.
Yeah, and I'm going to have a counter argument for that once we hit the trade talks. So.
Cool. I want to go this week, but I don't think I can. But let's move on to the last game, Knights and Manly. Knights 28 beat Manly 18.
Just finished, and there's actually a tear coming to my eye as soon as I talk about a man called Greg Marju. 137 and scored 3 tries. And he's just one of those people, like, you know how people score 3 tries and then they score 90? Like, he is just a meter eater. Yeah, absolute meter eater. But the Knights won't play a depleted Manly every week. So this was just an absolute perfect storm for Marju. He dropped in cash again, and picking him up this week was the absolute right play. But can I tell you, if you're looking at his score this week, you don't add him next week. You don't add him the week after. I think you've missed the boat.
I mean, he's got the bye next week anyway.
So you're not adding him. Absolutely. Yeah. He's no Carraz. You added Carraz last week. He's no Carraz.
No. And the reason I added Carraz is because I think he's bottomed out. I think his BE is about 40 odd. And it gave me a little bit of a leg up on this week and then the future buys. So I ended up behind in points, but I feel like I'm now ahead in prep. So I'll chalk that up as a bit of a neutral. Ponga 86. That was a popular one. I had to watch through the gaps in my fingers with Ponga because his first half as an on-owner, I was feeling really good about it. I was thinking, shit, these guys that captained Ponga or brought in Ponga, I think it was 8,000 people brought in Ponga. I thought, hang on, he's on 11 at halftime. This could actually end up really good for me. And he finished on 86. Thoughts on Ponga?
This last game was a real kick in the nuts for me because I genuinely thought that I had a leg up on all the people that were captaining Marju, all the people that brought Ponga in for a 1 week, basically a 1 week play to captain him this week. And yeah, it just wasn't that far off. Asako, I actually missed the update for Asako, so I thought he had 110. And I was just riding into today just thinking, this is going to be amazing. And look, I don't think that you can – I think you've nearly missed the boat on Ponga too, with his buys, with maybe getting an origin spot, because that's why he moved to fullback. I don't care what anybody says. He moved to fullback because he wants his origin spot. He went to the coach and said, hey, great idea. Love playing 5'8" to not get HIAs or whatever the training staff thinks. But I'm your best player. I want to play fullback. Put me back there, eh? And he's there. And he is going to score a lot of points while he's there. But he's got a bye next week, and he wants to play Origin. If Reece Walsh doesn't have the debut that me as a Queenslander hopes he has, hey, Ponga could be straight back in.
Yeah, that's the risk. That is the risk. And obviously, look, anybody that we're talking about in this game doesn't play next week. So they're not a trade option. You're not thinking about bringing any of these guys in early, I don't think, especially But Marju, we've missed. Ponga now is a chance of playing Origin if he has another good game in round 15 and Walsh shits the bed. Dom Young, you're not looking at. He got 83. Sipley, 72. He did okay. I think he's cheap front row forward, 350, 375K, something like that.
It could be good while Gerbo's out.
Yeah, and that's my thinking is Sipley could be a nice option, I think. And obviously, we're not talking about trading him in this week, but I feel like maybe from round 15 he could be an okay play, knowing that Gerbo's going to be out for a bit, and also the edge forwards are going to be missing a fair bit of time as well. In Tuolungi, I think is going to be out for over a month. Who am I missing then? There's another guy. Ben Trebojevic is also out, who could play on an edge. Ben Turbo. Burbo. 72 for Sipley. I don't mind it. I think maybe you should have got him last week or the week before. That's probably a little bit too far gone now too.
I'm just not looking to trade those front row forward blokes. Like, Paseka was okay, Kepi was okay, but that's wild. There were some guys out. Like, I don't want to make any more trades in my front row forward. Like, I just hate burning trades in front row forward when the top seems to be 70. Like, you get your centers right and you can get your center wingers right. You can get 137. Tell me where I'm putting my focus.
Oh, for sure. The high upside players, front row's a bit of a plod city, so don't have to worry about them. Heatwave, we will... who do we captain this week? I've VC looped Dillbags and you VC looped Bisako, right?
Yeah. And I had Dillbags as my captain, so yep.
Nice. Trade thoughts are coming very soon, mate. We'll get through this first. Professor Cactus says that it's amazing that Bradman Best actually passed it to him. I honestly think that maybe the first 4 or 5 times Bradman Best got the ball, I wanted to throw my TV remote at the TV because Best just cut straight back in and didn't even look to his outside once. I reckon Marju was wide open about 3 or 4 times there. So I was
actually really happy with that as a non-owner watching it. But can I tell you what? That pass to Marju, it was the best.
It was nice. It was a little quick tap on. I think there was a few questions in the chat. We've skipped over this, I guess, conversation, but a lot of people are saying that Jared Croker is owed points from try assists from those little catch and passes. They never ever give them. And look, in NRL fantasy, they always give the try assist to the last pass, but I kind of don't mind the way that Supercoach do it. They do it, and if you've got a guy that's sweeping out the back and creates the overlap, that's who they give the try assist to, and Croker did none of that in both of his try assists, I think, that people are talking about. So that's the reason why he didn't get that.
Croker didn't create the overlap.
No, that's right. He just caught and passed. So he gets a try contribution, but I can't remember who it was that got the overlap or created the overlap. It'll go to them. So Schuster and Garrick had an okay game, 50 odd each. I think this game showed, we already spoke about this, but it showed how much they need Turbo and DCE in this team to do well.
Yeah, and I'm pretty happy as a Schuster owner because he had a minus 33 break even. I went through all those frustrating times of having him and not being able to play him. But realistically, it was the right call to keep him. So I'm pretty happy. But also, I think if you don't own him, watching games like this where he only got 50, I think you still want him in your team. This is a guy that I don't think you've missed the boat on. He's 330K. He's about to be, 380K? You can't get a player of this caliber for that. Yep,
agreed. Fainu, 49 in 77 minutes as well.
Pretty happy.
Yeah, 200K basement price as well. So his price will go up a little bit. I think his BE was 15, but he was good too. Obviously, we're just not bringing him in this week. So this can be a conversation that we have in a week when these guys come back into contention, I think. Like we mentioned at the start, Manly, Knights and Eels all on the bye this week. How many active players do you have? Have you looked forward to round 14?
Yeah.
Do you know how many you've got?
Of course I have. I do a Supercoach podcast.
Do you? How many you got?
I've got 19. I actually don't have too many Eels players. So I've got two Eels players, 2 Manly players, and basically I just hate the way that Knights play footy, the way that Knights play footy. So I don't have any Knights players. So yeah, I'm actually completely fine for the following week. Yeah,
okay, good. I think I'm a little bit shorter than you. I think now without Croker, I'm sitting right on 17. So I think I'll probably need to make a move or two. I'm thinking just one move at the moment, just to get an extra number as an 18th. My team still looks okay, and I'm pretty happy with who's playing, but there's one guy I don't really want to have to rely on. So I might make a move or two this week. We'll see how that looks. Like we mentioned at the start, we'll talk the most popular captains in the top 10% of teams, because I think that's where we start to get relevance now with who we're chasing in ranks and things like that. So Dylan Brown, obviously the most popular captain and vice captain choice this week. So that's a bit of a no-brainer. 84. You're probably the thing with this one is it was on the precipice, I guess, or on the tip of the iceberg in terms of, do you take the VC loop at 77 or do you ride Marju, or do you ride a Damien Cook or Cody Walker or whoever it was in contention there? Azarko was probably the ceiling if you didn't go with Marju. Azarko 19% VC'd. And then obviously Hines was 10%. He was actually the second highest captain option this week. So I'm assuming people just use him as a loop. So Cody Walker 9.3, Garrick 9.3. I mean, Cody got 68, Garrick 51. 8.5% captain Ponga for 86. Moses, 3.9%. That was a good little pod, 98. He scored 5% VC'd him and probably looped. Marju, only 3.6% of people in the top 10% captained him for his 137. So that's big green arrows for those people. But then you've got Hopgood and Cook at 3 and 2.7% who had 70s. So at the end of the day, you've got 2 or maybe 3 big standouts there in Azarko, Moses, and Marju. If you went any of the others, it's kind of like you're on a level playing field with the rest.
And I was really hoping that one of those guys would get a 40 or something. And that's where I saw the big green arrows. And that's probably where my excitement for this week gets a bit deflated, because I actually didn't want to captain Asako. I just wanted to, the Eels were just playing that sort of next game. So I had to find a guy. And I was like, well, Asako's got upside. I'm bringing him in for that exact reason. Let's just chuck the VC on him. I would VC deal bags if I got the opportunity. I'd probably VC Hopgood if I got the opportunity. So I was just super high on it for that reason. But realistically, it was really hard to get a leg up with so many. I'm not even going to say mid scores, 63, for Harris. You're not even that disappointed. 75, I'm usually pretty happy with a captain for a week. It was just a really high scoring week with all the Origin players out.
Yeah, it was. It was a good scoring week. So, and obviously everybody in the chat, there's some scores of 1,100 plus this week with only 13 players. So some good scores floating about. Talk to me about your trade thoughts. You go first. Now, for everybody, I guess for reference now, Sharks, Parramatta, Tigers and Bulldogs players all play around 16 and 19. So I guess now people will be factoring in these kinds of players. What kind of direction are you going for next round?
So I've got 20 trades left and I've got 19 players. It's going to be very TLT dependent for me. Again, if Walsh isn't named, I do really like Drinkwater, but I don't think I could do it. I could even just sit on my hands. I would really love to move Hosking. Karaz has always been my target for this week. You know how I said that I saved some of these things in my calendar? This is the trade in Karaz week. And I don't hate it. Via Jules, I can actually do it. I can go Hosking to Karaz. So I think that's going to be maybe my one move. And it actually helps me a little bit because I'm trying to bank a lot of cash because I want to be able to go Katoa to Nico in, 4 weeks' time. So I'm going to be making some cash grabs and I'm going to be doing some moves like that because I would love to finish the year with Cleary Nico, Dillbags or Cody Walker, probably Dillbags and Munster. So, I want to be able to slot. When I go Nico for the Dragons game, I'd love to have the money banked up for Katoa there.
Yep.
That's going to be the target, which Katoa, I hope, is sitting around that 400K. So, I'm going to have to find another 400K.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, I love the four there of Cleary, Nico, Cody Walker, Dillbags. That's an ideal situation. And then
I want to move Cody Walker. I want to move Cody Walker to Munster if Munster looks good, or I hate those buys and a few things like that. Yeah, that can make complete sense. High upside position, target the best players in that position for sure. I'm thinking I need to get Croker out. He misses round 14, 16, and 20 now. If he misses next week. So he plays round 15, 17, 15, 17, 18, and 19. I don't know. I'm a little bit stuck because, if he doesn't play, I've got flat 17 next week. So I probably need to maybe have a bit of a buffer. But the problem is
the only player I really want to go to, and I don't have the cash to do it, I've only got 30 grand sitting in the bank, would be Croker to Stags, which would create 60K that I'd just sit in for one trade. It could be my only trade this week.
But do you think that's worth a trade?
I don't know whether it is, and
You
I don't think at this stage it is worth a trade. It's probably the only thing that I can actually find that I would even consider worthy. I mean, Christian Welch eventually will end up being probably a downgrade to a bottom dollar front row forward kind of guy to free up 200K, 290K we probably get from that trade. But looking at the rest of my squad, like, I mean, Matty Dory, he's not going to really, there's nobody around that price range that I'd really want to grab for Matt Dory either. The rest of them I like. All my cheapies are making cash aside from Isaiah Katoa. Schuster's going to continue to make cash. Harry Edwards is going to continue to make cash. Who else have we got? Billy Smith will continue to make cash. I mean, I bought Karazin last week, so I don't need to make that move this week. So maybe I can sit on my hands this week. I actually don't know if there's anything I like. I don't know, which is really boring for the podcast. Didn't think about it.
It is really boring for the podcast when we're talking about saving trades, but we've done all this prior thinking. Like, I had the boost last week. I did not want to burn 4 trades this week. I just got shafted by Reece Walsh and Hudson Young getting picked. So I pivoted, I did it, and then I'm like, fuck, I'm in a really good position. It might actually be done for me to trade this week.
I also need to say that I have 17 only if Fafita and Cleary back up, which I think they both do. There's nobody that plays the Friday night that we have to really worry about this round. And that's probably the game where you would consider to be less than 48 hours before they'd have to then play again after Origin. So that's the big risk, the Friday night game. So there's no one in the Friday night game that concerns me in terms of backing up.
If you're looking and you're like, oh, I've got 15 players, I'll just trade 2 in, I'm going good. Like, just remember, these guys might not play. Like, I think Fafita will play. I think Cleary will play. I think Reece Walsh will play. But they might not. Like, I think Harry Grant will play. We think Munster will play. Apparently, he's got a niggling injury and he's about to play Origin. Maybe he won't. Just be prepared for that. Maybe have a boost up your sleeve. I've burnt mine, and I think I'm prepared. So
the beauty of if you held Turbo, he doesn't play anyway. He's got the bye. No. So you don't have to worry about him backing up or anything. Turbo
I still think with the way that he looks, he won't be playing too many weeks after Origin. I
don't think he'll back up at all based on how he's looking. But anyway, I would have advised for people to sell Turbo before Origin, but that's probably gone now. So
yeah. And I tell you, KO Weeks look pretty ordinary at fullback. So hopefully they put Garrick back there. Please.
Oh, that would be nice. I reckon KO Weeks' time at fullback in first grade is almost done this year.
Honestly, his time at fullback is KO days now, not KO Weeks.
No, definitely not. Good from you. I know that's off the cuff because it wasn't your best work.
Thanks. Means a lot.
Actually, you know what? I've got something good for the pod. I knew I did. I knew I wasn't going to come in this going, I'm going to make no trades.
Is it Matt Dory?
It's not Matt Dory, but
it's Matt Dury, actually.
Whatever, I don't care. He's going to be Matt Gone soon. I don't give a shit about his name.
Max Gone.
Max Gone. All right, I'm looking at a bit of a spicy pod in the 2RF. I don't think many people are really looking at this guy. But if anybody can guess him in the chat, props. Average at 61 for the season. He's got a season high of 95 points. In 8 games, he's only scored 1 try and 2 try assists. Now, this guy's got some really good attacking upside as well. He will play around 16 and 19, which narrows him down to one of 4 teams. He's a guy that I could actually use as maybe my 5th 2RF. Shot Scott at Bateman. I love Johnny Bateman because I genuinely feel like John Bateman could actually come good. He could explode. He's had 8 games to acclimatize. He's got used to the team. He's got used to the way Sheens runs his team. The one thing I love about John Bateman is the fact that he kind of slides, and I know that Phil's going to hate me for kind of going on this one, but we were going to keep this to ourselves, but I can't do it. Everybody gets all my insight on the pod. It's not called insight for nothing. I love how he shuffles sideways and palms off 3 or 4 blokes in attack in one set. And you're going to get 4, 5, 6 points in tackle breaks every single time he does that. So I genuinely feel like, and I don't think people will take the risk, which is why I'm talking about it. I could easily just keep this to myself, but there is a lot of risk with going with John Bateman because he plays for the Tigers. And when you look at his scores, they have been up and down. A safer option would actually end up being going to somebody like Isaiah Papali'i because he's a fallen gun, right? He's dropped 250K or something stupid. So like the smarter move and the cheaper move, it's 20K cheaper to go to IPAP right now. But maybe John Bateman is the guy that kind of takes me or creates that kind of pod that I'm looking for.
Pick up BKP's chat there. And I think the big thing that you're looking at is BKP's comment. I think the big thing that Braino's looking at is the way Bateman looks like he's going to have some attacking upside. And I know that you and myself always looks for that attacking upside because we're looking for that guy that will get 90. I know IPAP's been that guy in the past, but he definitely hasn't looked that guy since he's put on a Tigers jersey. I would probably still nearly look at IPAP due to the fact that the next guy that I want, I don't want to take any risks with how many trades I have.
Yep.
But sometimes you've got to zig when others zag.
And that's probably my thinking at the moment is that teams are starting to look very similar. So I'm trying to find guys that, and I actually could Bateman average 70 for the rest of the season? I don't see why he couldn't. Tigers are starting to gel. They're starting to click. And James Gowing was asking, can we really afford to play Tigers players in our team? When you're looking at John Bateman, who's played the 2 seasons that he played at the Raiders, he averaged, I think, 74 and 73 for the season. He's got good attacking upside. I feel like he's now kind of found his place in this team. So, don't get me wrong, this might be a move I don't make, but it's more so initial thoughts. Do I like John Bateman as a player? I do. Do I think he could score well? I do.
And we're talking about fucking off a guy like Hosking right now, which has turned into the ultimate plotter.
Yep. Spot on. Anyway, I mean, I'm probably going to think about this and reverse trades about 1,000 times this week and play around with a few things. I might not even trade. But anyway, that's a thought over the next couple of weeks because we need to remember that Tigers players will play the 2 net major buys coming up. So will Bulldogs players, but we've got a ton of them already. Eels players don't play next week or round 18, so a little bit limited in that capacity, but also Sharks players. So guys like Britton Nickera, guys like Jesse Ramey and Mulatalo will probably be in the most popular buys at some point in the next few weeks. These guys now are going to become really relevant because they're playing those next 2 major buys. So, yeah, mate, that wraps us up, I think. Hour 10, hour 12.
I think there was just a question coming in.
Yep. Let me try and find it. What are we looking at?
Just wait.
I don't think he is. I don't think Britton Nickera is overpriced. I think he's about priced at what you're going to get from him in return. I see him being a guy maybe in the 2RF that I'd want to finish the year with. I'd consider him a top 4 2RF for the year.
Yeah, right.
Is this your question that you wanted? Hey, Brano, why will Queensland win and by how many? Matthew O'Brien, I've heard of that name.
Yeah, never heard of her.
Yeah, never. I don't even know. I'm going to be in Cairns for the game as well, so I'm going to be in Queensland opposition territory for the game. So that'll be interesting. I don't feel necessarily that confident because we haven't picked our team on form. We picked our team on loyalty from 2 series ago. So I'm don't exactly feel amazing about the way that we picked our team. So as a New South Welshman, I feel like we have the better team on paper, but that doesn't mean anything in
that
Origin.
Always happens with the New South Wales team. And I think, like, if we've learned anything from Supercoach, like Turbo at times this year hasn't looked phenomenal. Like Reece Walsh has looked phenomenal for most of his time at fullback. Is he better than Tedesco? No, but he's in better form. I'm pretty, like, I don't go into too many series being as confident as I am because I think that we've picked the right guys this year.
Yep. Very quickly before we wrap up, Kaloa Matangi we've talked about a little bit, so we won't cover that again. But what are your thoughts on Dylan Edwards?
I don't actually like Penrith have been really looked after with these buys, and yeah, I'm looking for somebody like I like Dylan Edwards more than I like Gutho, but I like Gutho's draw better. So that's essentially my thoughts. And then I've went to myself, I'm just thinking too much about this. I'll just hold Reece Walsh. I'm happy with Reece Walsh.
Yeah, as a person who didn't own Reece Walsh for a couple of weeks there, it's absolutely shitting bricks watching him play because everything was happening around him. So we talked about Reece Walsh not having Payne Haas and not having those guys, but he's playing Origin, so that's irrelevant because he's always going to be playing with Payne Haas now.
And Dylan Edwards is also 800K. Like if I'm spending 800K, it's not on Dylan Edwards.
Yeah, fair shout. But it's a pod, but you're not spending that kind of cash.
Yep. I'd have to have 26 trades in the bank and be sitting at 27,000th.
Yeah. Risk reward. That about wraps us up. I think we're done for tonight. But guys, if you missed the section where we talked about the Discord server, we've put a bit of a server together to kind of support the Supercoach community, get involved in the chat, talk about final trades and stuff. So jump in the Discord for Insight Fantasy Sports. It's right up the top in the live chat. So to scroll right to the top, you'll find it there. I'll also post it once we've finished this up as well, so everyone can grab it. But otherwise, mate, thanks for hopping on with me as always. Correct me if I'm wrong here. Are you going solo on Tuesday for Teamless Tuesday? I'm going to be away for work.
Going solo. I'm pretty excited. Let's just see how it goes. I'm going to need everyone to get involved because I'm not much of a talker. So,
mate, you'll find a way. You'll find a way. I'm sure everybody will get involved in the chat as well. And this Messi O'Brien bloke doesn't like Marju, which is fair enough considering he doesn't own him. So. Guys, thanks for hopping on. As always, we really appreciate the support. If you haven't yet, please click subscribe or hit the like button. Or if you're listening to us on Spotify, Apple, Google Podcasts, make sure to follow along, leave a review. Otherwise, that's us for tonight. Maddie will see you on Tuesday, and then I'll be back for the Sunday wrap-up next week. You're listening to the Insight Fantasy Sports Podcast. We'll catch you later.
Cheerio.